besties, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, I'm Trish. I am a cosplayer and full-time artist. Today's video that you guys are going to see playing in the background is actually a recap of a pair of boot covers that I recently made. I might eventually make this into an actual tutorial, but for now just enjoy the process video as I talk to you guys about today's topic, which, oh my gosh, okay. So I asked you guys over on Instagram what you guys wanted to hear about, and I'm actually pleasantly surprised that you guys picked the topic I thought you were gonna pick, but I am pleasantly surprised that you guys actually voted so closely for the two topics. So I'd asked you guys if you wanted to hear a retail horror story, which is what you guys are going to be getting today, or if you wanted to hear about art theft and intellectual property theft in the art community. And it was a really close vote. Like, it was only about 15 votes different, which is kind of impressive because I really didn't think that you guys would care that much about intellectual property theft and things like that. So I'm definitely going to cover that in a future video, but today I'm going to tell you guys about the time that I honestly thought I was going to die at work. So a little bit of background story on this, and because this is really important. The background here is that I've worked retail before I was a full-time artist. I had worked in retail for 11 years. And during that time, I had 3 different jobs. One of them at an electronics store, one of them at a cell phone carrier, and that's where this story takes place, another one at an art store. So when I moved to Pennsylvania, I got a job as a rep at a cell phone provider, and I thought it was going to be an easy job because I had worked in a electronics retail store, and I understand electronic customers are freaking insane. And I knew this going in the door, so I can't say that I didn't kind of expect it when I went to the cell phone provider as a rep. But oh my gosh, cell phone customers are the worst. They're the worst people. For some reason, when people go to get cell phones, they just become total psychos and have lost all morality or sense of humanity because they want to hear what they want to hear and they don't want to hear anything else, even though that might be the case. So this story was right as I was actually about to leave. I was looking for a reason to leave working at the store, and I think this is actually one of the main reasons I ended up leaving. One of the things that kept happening is right as we were about to leave for the night, people would come in the door. And sometimes it would be a half an hour before we closed, which is what happened with this guy. It was a half an hour before we closed. And we know that we're gonna end up having to stay late, which kind of sucks, but it is what it is, and we can't turn people away from doing adding new lines or upgrading their phone or anything a half an hour before we close, or even 5 minutes before we close. We've had people come in who wanted to add 4 lines of service, which takes a very long time, 5 minutes before the store closed. So it kind of sucks, but it is what it is. So he comes in, was this guy, and he was, I don't know how to say this, but it's not offensive, but he was kind of a redneck. He had a pickup truck, he was a little rough around the edges, and he had an attitude walking in the door. And the other rep was a guy, we're gonna call him Tim, not his name, but we're gonna call him Tim, and I'm gonna try to remember that I called him that throughout this. So Tim is with another customer, and I have to help this man out. And I grew up in Baltimore, and I knew how to diffuse aggressive customers because I got my fair share of them working in Baltimore, because there's just all types there. So I was prepared and I was ready to deal with this customer, and he comes in, and the first thing he does, because we have these tables, is he throws his table out, throws his phone, across the table, and it slams into my hand, and I'm like, great. So he's already throwing his phone at me, and then he tells me this blank doesn't work. and I need a new one. And I'm like, oh, okay, this looks kind of new, but let me pull up your account and let me see what we can do for you. It was an iPhone, and it was a pretty new iPhone. So I was like, I wasn't expecting too much at this point because it had come out probably like 6 months before and most likely was probably not eligible for replacement, but he might have had insurance. So I go and pull up his account, and we find out first he wants to give me such a hard time about asking for his ID because he doesn't understand why he needs to give me his ID and why I need that information, because it's just ridiculous that I need that. And I'm like, well, it's just to protect your account and make sure that no one's trying to steal your, your information or trying to get phones on your line or, really basic, obvious stuff that shouldn't be a problem. But this man is freaking out on me. So he gives me his ID, and I finally get into his account, and his son is there. I totally forgot about his son, but his son is just sitting there at the table, like being very calm, because I believe it's actually his son's phone. So anyway, his son is sitting there being very calm, and this man is out of 10. And so I pull up his account, and I find out there's no insurance. But it's a little bit more tricky than that, because we might have been able to do an upgrade for another phone on the line or something like that. But what this man had done is when he first came in with his cell phone to get a new line on the account, he had brought his phone in. So he'd owned a phone, he brought it into the store and used that phone to set up a new line. The thing about that is they don't run a credit check for devices when you do that. And it's a way for customers who don't have as good of a credit to get a phone line because they already own the phone. So the provider is only paying for service. The caveat to that is you can't upgrade your phone for 90 days after you add that new line. And he had only added this new line less than a month ago. So he was very, very far outside that 90 days. And there was literally nothing I could do for him to upgrade his phone. I could not use another line. I could not do anything with this because it will not let me add another phone to that line unless he had bought it at full retail price. So I tell him this information, and of course he is extremely frustrated. And it's also important to note there were no other upgrades on any of his other lines. So there was literally nothing I could do for this man. And he gets more belligerent. So he's walking around the store at this point, and our store is extremely small, but he's walking around cussing and saying how unhelpful we are and just being kind of rude in general. But I tell him the only thing that I can suggest is that he call customer service and see if they can do anything. Because when he first came into the store, he told me that customer service said that he can absolutely positively upgrade his phone. It shouldn't be any problems, blah, blah, blah. And I don't know if you guys have worked at a phone store, but customer service will tell the customer literally anything to get them off the phone. So yeah, there was nothing customer service could have done that I couldn't do. However, I wanted him to call customer service again to have them tell him that he couldn't do it because the first rep he spoke to was wrong. So the man goes out to his truck, and this is where I start to get nervous because again, I live in Pennsylvania, and it is a man in a big pickup truck walking back and forth. And there's a lot of people in my town that own guns. And I start to get kind of nervous because he keeps pacing around his truck while he's on his phone. At this point, the store is gonna close in about 15 minutes. And I'm like, well, he's got 15 minutes to make that phone call because we told him he could make the phone call, and if they're able to do the upgrade, he can do it for in-store pickup. We'll stay open for a little bit. He can come in and he can grab his phone if he comes in and tells us that they're doing an upgrade for in-store pickup. So he's on the phone in the parking lot for about 5 minutes. So it's about 10 minutes before the store closes. And he comes back in. The store closing is going to be important later on. So he comes back in and once again throws his phone at me. But this time it's his personal phone, not the broken one. Because the customer service rep has told him that he can upgrade his phone, and she doesn't understand why we possibly can't do this in the store. And I am like, dear Lord, this is not the case, but fine. So like, I dodge his phone for a second time, and then I pick it up, and I wanted to be like, dude, this is why your phone is broken. However, I am trying to be professional at this point, so I pick up the phone, and I'm talking to the customer service rep, and I'm like, look, I cannot upgrade this line. Is there any way, because you're telling me you can, is there any way that you can upgrade the line and we can do it for in-store pickup? And she goes, well, no, it shows that you could upgrade it, but then when I go to upgrade, it says I can't, so there must be something wrong with it, so you need to do it on your end. And this is where I'm just like, you know that Pikachu meme where he's just like, staring off into space? Yeah, that was me. Because I'm like, dude, I can only do what, we have basically the same system. I can only do what you can do. So why are you telling me that I can upgrade it, but when you go to upgrade it, I can't? You know, I can only do the same thing you can do. And she's like, well, I'm sorry, but I can't do it here, but you need to help our customer, so you need to do it on your end. And I'm like, I have tried. I can't. And at this point, I guess the guy's listening to what I'm saying to this lady, so he's like pacing around the store. He's calling me all kinds of names at this point. And the other Tim who works there, Tim goes to the back. And I think Tim is like avoiding me at this point. However, I come to later find out that Tim is calling the police, and he's calling our local manager. Like, he had to call our local manager first to make sure he could call the police to get this man to leave, because the whole time I'm on the phone with this woman, this man is pacing back and forth, like going out to his pickup truck, walking around. His son is completely gone at this point. Like, I got even more nervous because his son is completely out of the picture, and I'm like, this man is gonna bring a gun into the store and murder us, because he's just like, he's extremely aggressive. He's extremely irate at this point, and he keeps pacing back and forth in his truck. Like, he kept going to his truck, opening the door, like looking inside of it, closing it, walking around, and coming back inside. And meanwhile, like, he's hearing snippets of the conversation that I'm having with this customer service rep. So he thinks that I'm trying to keep him from getting his cell phone, and he's utterly convinced that I am just being a terrible person. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this guy is like kind of like freaking me out a little bit. And Tim's in the back, and I'm by myself, and I'm like, I don't know what to do. So he continues pacing, and like, I get off the phone with the customer service rep, or I finish my part of the conversation with him, and I hand the phone back to this guy. And he starts talking to her, and I can like literally see the vein in his head just like pulsing, because she's telling him that I can't do the upgrade, or I think she's telling him that I won't do the upgrade. Yeah, she was telling him I won't do the upgrade. Not that I can't, but I won't do the upgrade. And she can't do it on her end, and we just have to do it, and she doesn't understand why we can't do it. And like, I'm just like, dude, why are you throwing me under the bus when you know for a fact I can't do it? Like, there's nothing I can do. You're just trying to get this man off the phone at this point. So he hangs up on her, and he starts like belligerently yelling at me, and Tim's still in the back. I don't know what's going on. And he like walks out the door again and starts to head over to his truck. At this point, I get my phone and I text my significant other, because he was coming to pick me up. And I'm like, stay in your car. Like, there's a crazy guy that keeps coming in the store. Like, just stay in your car, and like, I'll let you know when we're leaving so that you know. Like, just turn the lights off, stay in your car, don't do anything. And like, the guy walks out the door, and I notice that it's closing time. And like, exactly as it turns to 8 o'clock, which is when we closed, Tim comes walking out of the back, goes up to the door, and locks it. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, the guy is still, and he's like, no, we closed. And so he locks the door in the dude's face, and the guy is pissed. Like, he starts like banging on the door and shit like that. And at this point, the police come, and I didn't know that he had called the police. But like the police come and the guy is like cussing and yelling and whatever. And I guess the police had dealt with him because honestly, like we had counted out our change and everything and we were ready to go. So like, I almost said his real name. Tim called, you know, our district manager and all that. So he talks to the police officer. The police officer gives this irate, crazy dude like the number to the district manager. And then we leave for the night. So the guy had left by the time my significant other got there because he was running just a couple minutes late, I guess. But the guy had left, the police officer had left, and like me and Tim leave. And then I come back the next day and I find out that this guy had like called our district manager, had like cussed him out over the phone, had been absolutely ridiculous on the phone. So they went ahead and they canceled, like not canceled, but they like kind of like blacklisted him from all of the area stores because they had taken our like camera footage and they had copied it and sent it to all of the stores with a picture of him, and we're like, if this man comes in the store, tell him he has to deal with customer service because we will not help him, because he was just so angry and it was insane. So that is like my story of, I honestly thought that we were gonna die that day. I honestly literally thought that this man was gonna come in with a gun and kill both of us, and like that was it, because he was just that angry and he was just acting so strangely. And that was probably like the scariest experience I had working in retail. So yeah, never want to do that again. It was terrifying. So I hope you guys like this story. I'm gonna go ahead and end this video now, but you can see that I made some fancy boot covers, and one of these days I might make a tutorial on that. I hope you guys enjoy. If you like this content, please hit that like button, and if you are new here and you like what is going on, please hit that subscribe button. Thanks so much, you guys. Have a great day.